There was a seat for everyone at the family Christmas dinner, except for me. I stood in the doorway of the dining room, a small wrapped gift clutched in both hands. The house smelled of cinnamon, roasted turkey, and fresh pine. Someone had meticulously set the table with twinkling candles, elegant name cards in careful cursive, and crystal glasses that caught the soft light. My name, conspicuously, was absent. At the head of the table sat my older brother, Colin, still broad-shouldered, still wearing that self-satisfied smirk as if it were a permanent fixture. He was carving the honey-glazed ham with an air of absolute ownership. Perhaps he genuinely believed he owned the moment. Beside him was Lana, my cousin. She wore one of my mother's cherished vintage scarves, a pale green silk, the one Mom used to save for Christmas Eve services. Lena sipped from her wine glass, radiating an air of belonging, as if she had always been an integral part of this scene. I scanned the table again. Maybe I'd missed something. Maybe a chair had been temporarily moved to make room for the array of desserts. But no, the table was fully set, complete, without me. I turned to my mother, Joyce. She was meticulously arranging sweet potatoes in a dish adorned with marshmallows, her eyes deliberately avoiding mine. When I opened my mouth to speak, she glanced at the turkey as if it had just posed a complex question. "I think you forgot my seat," I said, keeping my voice deliberately low, an undercurrent of something fragile beneath the calm. Colin didn't even pause his chewing. Without looking up, he delivered the words flatly, cleanly, as if they cost him nothing. "It's outside with the dogs." A breathless silence descended upon the room. Lana let out a quiet, stifled snort. One of the second cousins shifted uneasily in his chair. A fork clicked against porcelain, but no one uttered a word. No one laughed, though the tension was palpable. No one crucially objected. I stood there, my cheeks burning with a humiliation that felt both scalding and chilling. I wasn't sure what stung more, that he said it with such casual cruelty, or that everyone else allowed it to hang in the air, unchallenged like a forgotten prayer. I could have turned. I could have unleashed a torrent of angry words, created a dramatic scene, perhaps even shattered a crystal glass. But instead, I stepped forward, placed the small, unassuming box wrapped in simple brown paper in front of Colin's plate, then leaned in close enough that only he could hear. "Check under your plate," I whispered, my voice barely audible but laced with an iron certainty he wouldn't grasp until later. Then I walked out. I didn't wait for anyone to stop me, to call me back. I didn't look back. I simply stepped into the biting December night and let the sudden cold remind me that I was still alive, still capable of feeling, still present. When I was little, Christmas was my absolute favorite day in the whole world. Back then, the Christmas tree stood proudly by the living room window. Not some carefully curated social media photo op, but a slightly lopsided pine adorned with mismatched ornaments we'd lovingly collected over the years. Colin and I would squabble over whose turn it was to hang the delicate glass reindeer, the one with the perpetually cracked antler. Dad, our steady anchor, would break up the argument by holding it himself and declaring, "This one's for peace, and peace doesn't pick sides." That was our dad, Russell Blake. He smelled like engine oil and cedar chips, always sporting a faint grease stain on his favorite flannel shirt, even on Christmas Day. But when he smiled, truly smiled, the whole room felt steady, grounded, and safe. He'd ruffle my hair and say, "You've got grit, kid. You're going to outlast all of us. Make your own way." I didn't understand what he meant then. I thought he was just being playful. Now, I think perhaps he saw something even I hadn't yet recognized within myself. Colin used to be different too. He and I once spent an entire Saturday building a snow fort so monumental we couldn't even see over its towering walls. I remember slipping on a patch of ice trying to climb it, busting my lip, and he cried harder than I did. He brought me inside, yelling for Mom, wrapped me in a warm blanket, and declared, "You're not allowed to die ever." That version of him, the one who always gave me the last piece of fudge and let me sit shotgun when we went to gather firewood. I don't know where he went. I don't know when he left. And Mom, Joyce, she used to sing while cooking. Her voice was soft, often barely in tune, but I cherish the memory of her humming Silent Night while peeling potatoes, a gentle melody filling the kitchen. Sometimes she'd twirl in her slippers, her apron flaring just a bit when she thought no one was looking. I always looked. She used to make sure my favorite mug, white with faded holly leaves, was waiting on the table with steaming hot cocoa and an absurd number of marshmallows. I didn't see it this year. I didn't truly expect to, but its absence was a quiet ache. What happened to that house? What happened to the people who lived in it? Was I the only one who remembered the genuine warmth, the good parts? Because somewhere along the way, the laughter turned sharp, the warmth cooled, and Colin began speaking for the family as if it were his sole right to interpret their unspoken rules. My voice grew smaller. My name appeared less and less in family conversations, until one day it stopped appearing at all. And still, I kept showing up, clinging to a fading hope that it was just grief over Dad or stress, or that they would eventually see me, truly see me. But hope, I've learned, can go blind if you feed it long enough. And I think mine did. It didn't happen all at once. There wasn't a climactic fight, or a slammed door, or some dramatic theatrical falling out. No one ever directly yelled at me to leave. No one ever said, "You're not family anymore." They just subtly, progressively stopped including me. At first, it was incredibly subtle. I'd call to check in on Dad. This was back when his memory started slipping, when he'd forget the names of his beloved tools or affectionately call me that girl on the phone. And Colin would answer, upbeat as ever. "Dad's resting right now. I'll let him know you called." A few days later, I'd try again. "He's in a fog today. Not the best time." Eventually, I stopped hearing Dad's voice altogether. Just updates filtered through Colin, always wrapped in a veneer of concern, always protecting someone. Mom started deferring to him too. I'd ask how she was holding up, and she'd say things like, "Colin's been such a help. He really knows how to handle things. It's just easier when things go through him." At first, I didn't push. I told myself they were tired, perhaps overwhelmed, that maybe I was being overly sensitive. I was living in Austin then, working long, demanding hours at a marketing firm. I sent money home every month, discreetly paid part of the roof repair without being asked, and booked flights back for every major holiday, enduring grueling travel. Still, I started noticing things. One Christmas, my old personalized stocking was conspicuously missing from the fireplace mantel. I later found it stuffed unceremoniously in the back of the hallway closet, as if hidden away. The framed photograph of me and Dad, taken on the day he gave me his old worn toolbox, vanished from the living room wall. In its place was a new pristine photo, Colin and Lana at the garden center, holding a flat of vibrant flowers for Mom, as if they had single-handedly saved the family homestead. I tried to convince myself it didn't mean anything, that I was overthinking. Then, one Sunday, I logged onto social media and saw pictures from what they enthusiastically called an impromptu family dinner, all of them, around the same antique dining table I used to help set, laughing, toes touching under the chairs I once carefully sanded down with Dad. No one had called me. No one had even thought to mention it. When I asked Mom about it, she said it was last minute. "You live so far, sweetie. We figured you wouldn't want the hassle of the travel." She didn't seem to hear the way her words landed, the crushing weight of dismissal. Or maybe she did, and simply chose to let them land anyway. From then on, the pattern was chillingly clear. Decisions were made without me, about Dad's complex medical treatment, about the upkeep of the house, about family finances. Colin explained everything after the fact, always with a tone that made it sound like he was doing me a generous favor. "Didn't want to bother you while you're busy with your career, Marin. It's just easier this way for Mom." Easier? For whom? I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just profoundly confused, completely off balance. Like someone had slowly been turning the volume down on my very existence until I couldn't even hear my own voice anymore. They never explicitly told me to go. They just stopped saving me a seat at the table of their lives. The first time I realized Lana had moved in, she answered the phone from my mother's kitchen. I could distinctly hear the ceramic clink of a spoon against Mom's favorite mug, the one with the bright red cardinals on it. Lana laughed at something in the background, Colin, probably, and said, "Hold on, your mom's elbow deep in pie dough." Your mom? That phrase settled heavy in my chest for days, a stone of disquiet. I asked Joyce about it a week later, careful not to sound accusatory, just curious. Is Lana staying with you now? Just helping out? She's been a godsend, Marin. You know how things have been with your father's health. A true godsend. A godsend. This was the same Lana who 3 years earlier had borrowed Mom's antique sapphire earrings and brazenly claimed she thought they were hers, who lied about a missing checkbook at Thanksgiving, causing unnecessary distress, who once cried dramatically on the porch and wailed, "I don't know why everyone thinks I'm the bad one." And now here she was, setting the very table I used to set, wearing the silk scarves Mom used to wrap around her shoulders on snowy mornings, leaving saccharine handwritten notes on the fridge. "Chicken's in the oven," took Mom to PT. At first, I tried to rationalize it. I told myself it was purely practical. They needed someone around, and I hadn't been. Not physically, anyway, given my job in Austin. But slowly, insidiously, Lana stopped being merely a helper and became the one who knows where everything is, the indispensable presence. When I called to ask how Dad's doctor visit went, Lana was the one who answered, giving clinical details. When I sent a lavish bouquet of flowers for Mom's birthday, Lana texted me a thank you with a photo of Mom holding the bouquet, standing proudly beside her. The caption read, "She loved them. Great day." I wasn't in the picture. I wasn't in any picture anymore. I started asking more pointed questions. Colin's answers were vague, dismissive. "She's just around to help with errands, Marin. It's not like she's taking over, don't be dramatic." But when I finally visited for Dad's memorial service, Lana greeted guests at the door as if she were the lady of the house. She wore a simple, neat black dress, the exact same one I'd worn to my uncle's funeral years ago. I recognized the hemline, the way it fell just above the knee. I had left it in the closet upstairs, unworn for years. It wasn't hers. She stood by the coffee table, pouring cider, telling sentimental stories about Dad, as if she'd known him better than I had. A lifetime of shared memories. People nodded, they smiled, they believed her every word. And I just stood there, my coat still on, hands cold, watching my rightful place disappear, piece by agonizing piece. Later that evening, I tried to bring it up to Mom. I didn't want to accuse, just to understand, to know where I stood in my own family. "She's just trying to help, Marin. You've always been too sensitive about things, overthinking everything." That's when the horrifying realization hit me. It wasn't that they forgot me. It was that they'd found someone easier, more pliable, someone willing to step into my shoes and replace me. 2 months before the next Christmas, I drove up to the house without calling ahead. I wasn't planning to go inside, just to sit in the driveway, look at the old porch swing, and try to conjure the memories of who I used to be when this place still truly felt like mine. But when I pulled up, the driveway was empty. No sign of Colin's truck, no Lana in the window, no motion in the kitchen. I stepped out anyway. My old key still worked, sliding smoothly into the lock. The house was quieter than I remembered. No music, no TV, just the faint hum of the heater and the comforting creak of floorboards that still spoke when no one else would. I found myself drifting toward Dad's study. It was the only room no one had rearranged, the only sanctuary untouched by their subtle erasure. Everything else in the house felt slightly off, like it had been staged to look familiar. But something vital was missing behind the eyes. A soul. But the study? His study was pristine, a time capsule. The old recliner still sagged comfortably in the middle, a testament to countless hours spent reading. His worn toolbox sat beneath the bookshelf, paint chipped and rusted, a silent monument. A clock ticked softly by the window, the one with the dusty face and brass hands that always ran 10 minutes slow. And then I saw it. The small cabinet in the corner, dark wood with a polished brass handle. I'd seen him open it a dozen times growing up, but I never paid attention to what went inside. I knelt down and pulled. It stuck at first, then gave way with a soft click, revealing a small metal safe within. My breath caught in my throat. I remembered something suddenly, a long forgotten detail. A long time ago, maybe when I was in high school, he tucked a tiny key inside his favorite book, a mischievous glint in his eye, said it was for just in case. I reached up, my fingers tracing the spines of the books on the shelves. Travels with Charlie by Steinbeck, worn spine, cracked leather. The key was still there. When the safe clicked open, I didn't know what I expected. Maybe old receipts, maybe nothing at all. But there it was. An envelope, thick cream paper, my name on the front written in his distinct, familiar hand. I sat down on the floor, knees to my chest, and opened it. Inside, a notarized will, dated 2 weeks before he died. Every asset, this house, the savings, the land in Monument Valley, was unequivocally left to me. Colin's name wasn't mentioned once, neither was Lana's, and behind the will, a handwritten note, folded, slightly yellowed at the edges. It said, "Marin, I see it now. I didn't before, and I'm so profoundly sorry. You never asked for anything, you just stayed. You protected me when no one else did. This house is yours. You've truly earned it, my dear." Love, Dad. I didn't cry at the funeral. I cried silently on that study floor. Not for the house, not for the inheritance, but because in the end, someone truly saw me. Someone truly validated my existence. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I dressed in dark jeans and a navy coat. Nothing dramatic, nothing that screamed, "Look at me." I brought a single box wrapped in plain brown paper, tied simply with twine. It was Christmas Eve. The Blake house still had the same string of colored lights blinking unevenly, a nostalgic glow. The wreath on the door was slightly crooked, a comforting imperfection. Someone had replaced the welcome mat. It used to say, "Home is where Dad is." Now it read, "Joyful season." I knocked once, then let myself in. The door unlatched. No one heard me at first. The dining room was already full, a cacophony of cheerful voices. Colin at the head of the table, Lana to his right, her hand resting lightly on his arm, proprietarily. Mom sat across from them, smiling in that soft, distant way that used to be reserved for mere guests. My seat was, predictably, not there again. This time I didn't flinch. I stepped forward, placed the unassuming box deliberately in the very center of the dining table, and looked directly at Colin. He blinked, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. "Marin, what are you?" I didn't give him the satisfaction of finishing the question. "Check under your plate," I said, my voice low but firm, cutting through the festive din. He glanced down, lifted the elegant charger, and found a single key. It was old brass, worn smooth with years of use. Dad's safe key. Colin's eyes flicked up to mine, the confusion replaced by a flicker of something else. Nervousness? No, not yet. He didn't know enough to be truly afraid. Joyce rose halfway from her seat, her forced smile faltering, her eyes wide with apprehension. "Marin, this isn't—" "I'm not staying," I said, interrupting her gently but firmly. "Just wanted to drop that off, a little holiday cheer." Lana reached for the box, her eyes alight with curiosity. "Is it a gift?" I looked at her for the first time all evening, meeting her gaze directly, yet looking through her, as if she were made of glass. "Really? In a way, I suppose it is." She flushed, her hand retreating quickly, sensing the undercurrent. I turned toward the door. No one followed. No one truly asked me to stay, not with genuine sincerity. Colin was already lifting the box's lid, a hesitant curiosity on his face. Joyce suddenly cried out, "Wait, what is this, Colin?" I was halfway down the front steps when I heard chairs scrape violently, voices rise in alarm, then a crescendo of shocked exclamations. I didn't stop. The night air was sharp, cold against my throat, a bracing reminder of my resolve. I walked back to my car, sat for a moment in the driver's seat, and let the settling silence of the deserted street envelop me. Because what they found in that box wasn't wrapped in malice or petty revenge. It was wrapped in unassailable truth, the official copy of Dad's will, the raw, heartfelt letter, stained with his tears, detailing his regrets, a small faded photograph, me and him shoulder to shoulder, smiling broadly. From the summer, I helped him rebuild the old garden fence. Nothing dramatic, nothing theatrical, just enough. I let them read it in their own voices, in their own time. Let the truth sink into their carefully constructed illusions. Let them sit at that table, seemingly full and complete, but with one chair always conspicuously, painfully empty. Would they still pretend I was just too sensitive? That I had imagined it all? And if so, who then had left that old brass key, the undeniable symbol of my rightful place? They started calling the next morning. First, it was Joyce, just a hesitant voicemail. "Hi, sweetie, we read what you left. It caught us off guard, that's all. We really should talk, Marin. I think we all just need to breathe and maybe come together as a family, like we used to." No apology, just caught off guard. Then Colin sent a text. "Can we meet? There's a lot to discuss. I think we all just misunderstood each other, a big misunderstanding." Not a single word about the will or the letter itself. Then Lana messaged me. Just a sad face emoji, nothing else. For a week, I let the messages pile up, unread, unanswered. They tried new angles, new strategies to reel me back in. Feigned confusion, wistful nostalgia, even attempts at guilt-tripping. "Your dad wouldn't want this rift, Marin. We're still your family. Let's not let bitterness ruin the holidays," his memory. But bitterness hadn't ruined anything. Their deliberate erasure of me had. And the thing is, I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to prove a point to them. I just, quite simply, didn't want to go back. I didn't block their numbers. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just stopped responding. I think that unsettling silence disturbed them more than any confrontation ever could. One afternoon, Colin even tried showing up at my office unannounced, a desperate gambit. My assistant, without me even asking, sent him away. She just said afterward he didn't look like someone you'd want to see right now. She was right. A few days later, Mom called again. This time, I picked up. Her voice was quiet, fragile, tinged with a weariness I hadn't heard before. "Marin, I think we made mistakes, significant mistakes. But this family, it's still yours too. We miss you." I waited a beat, then said softly, "I was always there, Mom. You just lived easier when I wasn't." She didn't respond, not because she disagreed, but because there was finally nothing left to say. 3 weeks after Christmas, I mailed one last envelope, no return address. Inside, the original photograph of Dad and me, the one from the fence rebuild, the one that had been quietly taken down from the hallway wall years ago, a subtle act of erasure. I didn't include a note. I didn't need to. A week later, a neighbor, a kind old woman, sent me a picture. I hadn't asked for it. She just thought I'd want to know. The photo had been rehung, not inside the main Blake house, not over the fireplace or beside the dining table. It was tacked up in the old shed behind the garden, Dad's tool shed, the one place no one else ever went, his private sanctuary. There it was, slightly crooked, hanging above the workbench. Just a girl and her father, standing side by side, smiling as if the world made perfect sense, as if nothing could ever break them. No caption, no explanation. I stared at the image for a long, long time, then closed my phone. That house, the physical structure, may belong to me on paper, legally, but the real inheritance wasn't brick or timber. It was this profound knowing. I never needed them to admit what they did, because the truth already exists, undeniable and resilient. And it doesn't simply go away when ignored. I still live in Austin, thriving on my own terms. I still drink from that faded holly mug I quietly took back after the memorial service. It chips a little more each winter, a testament to time and use. I let it. Sometimes people ask if I ever reconciled with my family. I tell them I was always part of the story. They just tried to write around me, to exclude me from their narrative. And now? Now they don't get to write me out. I never asked to be seen, not in their way. I just wanted to exist, authentically and fully. If you've ever been erased but chose to remain true to yourself, to stand firm in your own truth, just leave a single heart icon